Well, we'll be back from the break and let's continue going with our discussion here regarding safety management at workplaces. And of course, you get to realize there are lots of rights as an individual that you ought to have. Rights that also include you being able to at least be entitled in a way. Sometimes, if I told you at a workplace, your employer needs to pay attention to some of these things that we're discussing here. Well, before the break I was mentioning, looking at the things that we employees need to focus on. Because before we look for a job, some of us only focus on the salary, the paycheck, what am I going to earn, and mainly what is the kind of job I'm going to do. So little do we pay attention to the safety precautions that are attached to the job. As an employee in a situation when someone is applying for a job, what are those safety measures they really need to look at before accepting to go in for a job, regardless of the kind of job they're going for?
Okay, one of the things that the new employees need to look at is what's the reputation of the company?
Okay.
Does the company have a good reputation or does it have a bad reputation? And that's very easy to find. You just talk to people round about.
Okay. To find out.
To find out, there many accidents happen here, what's the people like? If you know somebody who works somewhere already, you contact them and you find out what the person actually is saying. The other thing to do is ask to go along and have a wander round before your interview and see what the standards are. If you see people drunk on the job, because I know many companies now breathalyze their employees before they get onto site, and especially in some of the construction sites, they have to blow into the alcohol meter. See if people are wearing safety equipment. Are they wearing helmets on a construction site? Are they wearing reflector jackets? Are they wearing them properly? Do they have safety boots? You know, in a construction site, you always have to have steel toe-capped boots. So you can't walk in with your own shoes on onto a construction site. When you walk into any place, the first thing that you should be met with is the safety regulations of that company. So when I come into SMART24, the receptionist is the person who should be telling me what to do in case of a fire, what to do in case of there is an accident, or we have to evacuate the premises. Where do I go? Where is the assembly point? Where can I go in a construction site and where I can't go? Because if you go in somewhere where you're not supposed to go, then you put yourself at risk. But if you've not been taught and told, then you could just walk in just because you don't really know. So these are things that should happen all the time. Because an employer is responsible not just for his workers, but also for any visitor on that site. So at the moment I'm here on SMART24, you are responsible for me and my safety and my health. So if one of these cameras bursts into flames, it is your responsibility to make sure I leave here safely.
Okay.
So workers need to know what their rights are. Now, you can come along and we would teach you your rights. When we go out and do safety and health training, we teach people their roles and responsibilities. Be they the employer or the employee. What are your roles and responsibilities? And that all comes from what is the company's policy and procedures and their SOPs. They have to have a safety and health policy. They have to have an environment policy. They have to have an equality policy. So these things have to be in, the workers need to know about them, and any visitors need to be told what they need to be told. So when something happens to you in the workplace, if you can't go to your work and return home in the same condition as you left in the morning, that means something has happened to you. Now, one of the problems is, do we know what has actually happened? You know, if you are in an office and you're sitting for 8 hours a day and you're basically not moving, you will eventually get health problems. But they will be chronic health problems, they will not be acute.
Mm.
So they will be chronic, which means that they will take a long time to come, but they will take forever to go away. You will die with them, basically.
Mm.
So sitting in the one place, not having your feet on the floor, if you're sitting at a computer desk, not having the screen at the correct distance away from you. And now everybody's using these iPads and laptops, which puts a bigger strain on the shoulders and neck area, which means that people don't realise, oh, my shoulder's sore today. And then the next week, I'm worse today.
Mm.
That will eventually mean that you will probably have neck problems, especially by the time you get to my age, because you've not been looking after your body.
All right, I guess looking at our employees in Uganda, our perspective from a Ugandan way is we believe the most important part is the money. I've been telling Vivian here, for us, I'm going to a workplace. I'm going to ask, how much am I earning? Does it fit my social life? Am I supposed to be earning this money? For how long am I going to be earning? How long am I supposed to be working? Then little do we ask, okay, is the environment safe for me to work? Are there any health implications of the kind of equipment I'm going to use? We never ask.
No.
Why is it so?
Because of poor economy
Okay.
of our country.
Okay.
Some people, they can understand that, the environment I'm working in is not good, but because
It's going to pay me.
it's going to pay me. So, but by law, it's not safe. Actually, safety at work is not only fire.
Okay.
You can wake up at 6, you expect to have breakfast here. But some workplaces, you find people don't have breakfast, they don't have lunch, they work the whole day up to the evening.
Yeah.
By the time somebody goes back or getting something to take to eat, you find he's so tired. Then tomorrow don't expect that person to perform at work. Don't expect your production to increase. So as a nation, if people are working in such a kind of environment where there is no policy, there is what, people they are not guided, that if you are at work, you should do, as Vivian has said, people must know their rights at work. It's not only knowing the first aid training, but also even delaying payment. People get affected, so they have some things to sort out. So safety is a bit wide. But what I'm recommending to companies or our nation, anyway, government, they should really, really review safety policy at work. People are suffering a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when you look at something here, she does mention about working hours. Let's look at the working hours here. Now I believe these working hours takes us to the mental sanity of an individual.
Yeah. Yep.
How ready are you? Someone being overworked. Sometimes it may not be according to the pay, but then because of the work environment, you have to overwork. And this also brings us to the concern of safety. But how do we now, get to understand our rights as individuals? Because our economy may not be that in Europe, where you will stand in the morning and say, I can't overwork for these hours. I can't work for these hours. Reason being, my pay is this. And if you want me to overwork, you have to increase my salary or my wages, or at the end of the day, you have to make sure I have a work leave every week. All that.
The problem, I think, in Uganda is that by law, you can work up to 48 hours a week.
Very true.
The International Labour Organization, which Uganda has signed up to, does not agree with that. So many offices will work 40 hours a week. Some, even in European countries, will work 35 hours a week.
Okay.
Because they know that you can, if you work less hours, you can still be more productive. Because you are spending time with your family, with your friends, doing your hobbies, and we term this the work-life balance.
Yes. Because you're balancing social life.
You're balancing your social life, your friends, your family.
Yes.
But not at work all the time. Now there are professions where it doesn't work as easy as that, but in the majority of office work, the majority of most workplaces, apart from the services like the medical, the security, the police, they can't just walk off at 5 o'clock and go home if they're in the middle of a case. You wouldn't expect that. But in many of the service industries, the emergency service industries, you will find that people get time off in lieu,
Okay.
or they get overtime, or if they work on public holidays, they get extra salary.
Okay.
But for the majority of people, yeah, you can walk off at 5 o'clock and not worry. But 48 hours a week is actually 6 days out of 7.
Okay.
Which is a lot to ask somebody, especially if they're working out in the sun, in your construction areas. You're working outside, the weather is not always good for working, can either be too hot,
Okay.
it can be wet. We've seen the increase of rain, we've seen the increase of humidity in Uganda that we didn't have before. When I came to Uganda, there was no humidity, it was a dry heat. Now we're more and more humid, and we're going to get more and more because of climate change.
Yes.
So that will affect people.
Okay.
WHO, the World Health Organization, is now recommending that Africans, sub-Saharan Africans, start using suntan lotion
Okay.
because of skin cancer. So even though you have the correct pigment to be working out in the sun, it's now becoming too hot, and your pigment is not protecting you as it should.
All right. As we move on with our discussion here, I need to understand as well. Let's look at the office hazards that we need to pay attention to in any workplace.
Any workplace.
Yes.
You basically have physical hazards, like
Okay.
slip, trips and falls.
Okay.
You have electrical hazards, loose cables, faulty
That can
switches,
just happen at
sockets.
any one time. True.
Anybody can cause a problem with that.
Okay.
We have in offices, what I said before, air quality. How often is the ventilation system maintained? Normally people put it in and then it's there. And nobody comes and services it unless something happens to it. We knew we couldn't use it during COVID because of the size of the COVID virus. Temperature. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Noise.
In the work environment.
In the work environment. Printers going, photocopiers going, people answering phones, typing on the laptops. It's all noise.
Okay.
And noise is a big thing in Uganda because it's causing an awful lot of mental health problems. Repetitive motions.
Moving in one same direction. You're not changing anything.
Sitting at your laptop.
Okay.
How many times do you think in a week that you can type? Move your fingers. They've calculated it between 50,000 and 200,000 times per day.
So imagine someone sitting from morning
to night.
Okay.
And this causes problems on your wrist if your wrist is not in the correct position. It's all about positioning.
Okay.
How is your posture?
But now I guess that goes more a lot to the employees themselves.
The employees, yes, but it's actually the
employers who wants to see someone's
responsibility to
sure
ensure that the employee knows. Now, once the employee knows, yeah, and then I don't follow it, then it takes the responsibility away from the employer, and especially if they are not supervising and maintaining.
All right. Agnes, if I bring you in here, back to the SMART Institute here, organization, what are some of those key objectives that you have as SMART to ensure that these particular points that we are discussing facilitated in different workplaces?
Okay, the objective we as SMART, we are looking, if you want business to be productive, if you want revenues to increase,
Okay.
if you want people to be safe at work, you have to follow the policy, you have to comply by law, you have to make sure to sustain your business, to move on. People must have knowledge and skilled or trained in this area.
Okay.
Yes.
So to ensure that at least you have a safe environment.
Yes, we are recommending and we are really advising all companies to train their workers to know this kind of, safety precautions. Yes, you are here, but you don't know how to use a fire extinguisher. So if a fire starts with you, who doesn't know how to use a fire extinguisher, meaning you need to call police. Police is far in Chibuya, whatever jam. This is jam time. You think they will save the place?
State of emergency.
If somebody collapses, people are sick somewhere, somehow. People are stressed. But they need those trainings. Safety, stress management really now since COVID came it's now a big issue at work. So people need these counseling words, to hear good words, not all the time pressure. You have to finish this. You set targets. So I'm recommending this top management and stakeholders and whatever, sit down. How can we sustain this business with our workers we have? Changing workers also is not good.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive instead. Vivian, she's now working with Smart TV. When it goes like 2 years, you feel like a bit comfortable. So she knows what to do. I should not tell her A, B, C, D. But now bring a new person. If she left, that's when you feel it. Now she needs to pass through the process, the training, then to know the policies at work, then you feel a bit stressed. That's why you see economy is shaking somehow. Other people doesn't look at as an important issue, but it is. So we recommend the government actually to wake up this time. Actually, when COVID came and disrupted us, all the business were down. So we recommend the government to really make an awareness for the business people. How can we be lifted and come back to our line? Let workers be trained. Let the workers know their rights. Let workers have whatever they're supposed to have at work.
Okay. And you want to add something, Vivian?
I would like to add something. For large companies, one way that they can make sure that safety and health is implemented in their business is to have safety committees or safety champions.
Okay.
Some companies in Uganda have safety champions. We've trained them. And they're the ones that lead the way. And they're the ones that bring the employers on board and the employees on board. And that safety committee, if they are refreshed every year, they can make a big difference to a company, both in saving money for the employer, but also saving the lives and that of the employees.
Let's as well look at the safety measures here. Which are the safety measures to be highly implemented at the workplace?
You have to, as I keep telling everybody, you have to know your hazards. You have to put them into perspective. You have to fix the hazard.
Okay.
And you have to evaluate, did it work, or do we need to find another way of solving this issue? And there is what we call the hierarchy of control that we briefly discussed last week. And that means that can we eliminate the hazard completely? Very difficult to do. Can we substitute the hazard? Say it's a chemical hazard, can we get something less toxic? Then it's engineering, can we get a piece of equipment, or can we do something that makes the risk reduce? Then we have administrative, like that might be changing the hours you work, changing the way that the human resource manages people. And then you've got the very last one, which everybody jumps on, and that's your personal protective equipment, like your helmets, If you go on a boda, like you do field work, when you go on your boda, you should have a helmet, a motorcycle helmet. You should have your reflector jacket so that people can see you. You should have good safety boots and not just your ordinary shoes, and definitely not sandals, because that can cause you a lot of problems. You know, it's very difficult to always be safe, but it saves you a lot of heartache when something does happen. Now, something happened to me. I was thrown out the back window of a bus. I was off work for 4 months. And everybody else had to cover me. So that puts extra stress and strain onto people. And in the workplace, as Agnes is saying, we've got a lot of stress. We've got harassment. We've got bullying taking place. Not just for women, also for men, but predominantly women get a lot of sexual harassment. And these are some of the things that shouldn't never be happening in a workplace. Never.
So we shouldn't allow them to be happening.
No.
Okay. And well, when you look at most of this, some of the key issues here, what the safety environment consultancy coming in from SMART, one of the other things include undertaking occupational health and safety environment and quality audits, as well as undertaking safety, health and hygiene risk assessments. What really happens under the risk assessments here, Madam Agnes?
As Vivian has said, we just identify the hazard at workplace.
Okay.
What causes all this to happen, or what causes, why is this, like the setup of your student, if I'm to say. You have, before you planning to do this setup, have you brought any safety officer to advise how to install your wires, how to install your cameras, how, you know, the lights, is it okay for the people's eyes, if I'm to say. So those are some issues we would normally look at.
Okay. So that is more of the assessment part of it.
Yeah, we would look at your documentation first.
Okay.
Do you have a safety policy? Do you have a safety and health policy? What are your SOPs? What is your accident investigations? What are they telling us? Often when we've been doing them, we also look at the first aid box. And it's amazing how many companies have prescription-only medicine. That means medicine that can only be prescribed by a doctor or a specialised nurse in their first aid boxes, and they're dishing them out as if they are sweeties. And they are actually very dangerous, because if people have an allergic reaction to them, they've actually done something wrong. We would look at, as Agnes said, we look at your lighting, we look at your ventilation, we look at the chemicals in your... Even cleaning chemicals can be very dangerous.
Okay.
And sometimes you find them in soda bottles, which is a very bad thing to do. It's also illegal. But people can pick them up and think, oh, I'm going to drink a Mountain Dew, and I end up drinking something toxic or corrosive and burn my throat. So these are some of the things. But we would walk around the area with a member of staff, and then we would write up the report and then give the recommendations. And this is not expensive.
Okay.
It can save you an awful lot of money in the long run.
All right, now let me bring it up, Miss here.
Well, you know, some places when we say workers, they consider much who are sitting in the office. When we say workers at work, from the gate, the security person,
even the owner of the company is supposed to be
you
a worker.
understand?
Really.
From the gate, the security person must know what is safety means at work, or he should know his rights. If you find that person is drunk and misuse those who normally use the gun, that's why some incidences are happening. Say a security guard has killed the people. Either he was stressed that morning and nobody have talked to him, or nobody has shared with him since whatever way he came at work. So when we say cleaners, are cleaners really know what to do? Do they know the chemicals they are using, the way they are using it? they put gloves when they are cleaning, like in toilets, so ABCD, not people to have infection. If that cleaner tomorrow fail to come, you find the place in a mess, whereby you workers who are sitting in the chairs will say, I wasted this place is dirty, it stresses you the whole day. So when we say workers, we don't mean people who are on top, no. Security guard, cleaner, even whoever is in the compound, whoever is in your office, whoever is that, those are workers we are talking about. Yes.
Okay. And in your parting shots, I would want you to give advice to employees and then employers to ensure that we have these safety measures at the workplaces, and then also your final submission as you wanted to add on to what Agnes was saying.
Okay. One, we need to make sure that every company, every workplace has an emergency plan.
Okay.
Now this will protect the visitors and the workers, but people need to know what their roles and responsibilities are. Workers need to find out their rights. Workers need to make sure they know their rights. We have the Employment Act in Uganda. We've got the Compensation Act in Uganda. We've got many, many, many acts and policies in Uganda, and they're actually very good. The problem is in implementing them. Implementation, I'm very sorry to say, is very poor. So people have to take on that responsibility for themselves. Both the employer needs to know what his responsibilities and roles are, so does the employee. And that's why we at SMART are promoting and completely promoting safety and health officers in each place. Whether you are working 24/7 or you're working 9 to 5, you need safety and health officers. They are there. We can't actually graduate them quick enough. Our next graduation class, they're all working. We'll be getting people sending jobs in, and we've nobody to go for them, because everybody's nearly got a job. I think we've only 2 out of our whole number of students training with us. We've only 2 that are not working.
Okay.
So there are jobs out there for people, but there are also companies who need us, and they should be thinking of their profits, not their losses.
Okay. Now, Madam Agnes Mpere, your last remarks as we're winding up with our discussion this morning.
Thank you, Smart TV, for inviting SMART to come and tell the viewers and whoever is doing a business in Uganda. We as SMART really, we appreciate that it is existing. People have started to know that my business, so to sustain my business to this level, I need to comply with safety. I have to implement safety at work. So really I appreciate that though we still need a big awareness, people are lacking the knowledge and skill about safety. But slowly I think we shall reach there.
Okay.
Yes, so thank you very much, and we would like really the management of Smart TV to bring such a kind of programs whereby our Ugandans can be skilled, and how can we sustain their business in such a kind of condition we are in. Okay. Yeah.
All right. And there you have it this morning. My 2 guests, I've had Vivian Ling and Agnes Mpere from the Exit Institute of Safety Management and Technology. We're discussing safety management at workplaces. How safe is your workplace? As an employee, what do you look at mainly when you're going to ask for a job? Or do you only look at the money that you're going to earn and the type of job that you're going to at least execute? But how safe are you at that place in case something really happens, an accident? How are you going to go by that? Will you just lose your job just like that, or will the company compensate you? That and more is what we've been having here this morning. But stick around. After the break, we'll be going on ground with Barija Andrew. Good morning.